Week 14 Day 1. Aspire to strive for. Since I had a premonition that Eli would aspire to the position of captain. Since aspire to phrasal verb, to have a strong desire or hope, to do or have something. Few people who aspire to fame ever achieve it. Plus to infinitive. As a child, he aspired to be a great writer. Inveigh attach verbally. Since the pickets agreed to inveigh against the law that curtailed their freedom. Since inveigh against phrasal verb formal. To strongly criticize something or someone. There were politicians who inveighed against immigrants to get votes. Nettle irritate. Adjective irate. Sense, although the comic's quips joke seem to be mild, they begin to nettle the nightclub's owner. Since nettle plant. Noun. See a wild plant with heart-shaped leaves that are covered in hairs which sting. Stinging nettles. Nettles soup. T. Sense nettle annoy verb. T. Often passive, mainly UK, to make someone annoyed or slightly angry. She looked up at me sharply, clearly nettled by the interruption. Sense nettle rash. Noun. UK a condition that causes slightly raised red or white spots to appear on the skin. Sense stinging nettle. Noun. See a wild plant which has leaves with very short hairs that sting. Sense grasp the nettle. UK, to force yourself to be brave and do something that is difficult or unpleasant. You've been putting off making that phone call for days. I think it's about time you grasped the nettle. Overt open. Sense overt acts of violence by the prisoner jeopardized his parole. Sense overt adjective done or shown publicly or in an obvious way, not secret. Overt criticism. Overt racism. He shows no overt signs of his unhappiness. Compare covert. Overtly adverb. It was an overtly sexual advertising campaign. Relegate. Assigned to an inferior position. Banish. Sense, when they tried to relegate the star to a minor role she was furious. Sense relegate verb. T1, to put someone or something into a lower or less important rank or position. She resigned when she was relegated to a desk job. The story was relegated to the middle pages of the paper. 2 UK, if a football team is relegated, it is moved down to a lower division. If Southampton lose again, they may be relegated from the Premier League to the First Division. Compare promote raise. Relegation. Noun. UK the act of moving a football team to a lower division. Southampton face relegation if they lose again. To bury the hatchet. To make peace. Since after not speaking to each other for a year, they decided to bury the hatchet. Sunday morning at Pearl Harbor. At breakfast time on Sunday morning, December 7, 1941, Dory Miller was serving coffee aboard the battleship West Virginia. Dory was black, and the highest job to which he could then aspire in the U.S. Navy was that of messman. While Dory was technically a member of a great fighting fleet, he was not expected to fight. Most Army and Navy officers inveighed against blacks as fighting men. Although blacks were nettled by such overt prejudice, Dory Miller apparently accepted being relegated to the role of a mess hall servant. Now, as he poured the coffee, Dory was wondering why the airplanes above were making so much noise on a peaceful Sunday morning. Week 14 Day 2. Supine lying on the back. Sense from a supine position, the hunter emitted the animal's mating call. Sense supine body adjective formal. Lying flat on your back, looking up. We walked along the beach, past the rows of supine bodies soaking up the sun. Compare prone lying down. Supinely adverb formal. Sense supine character adjective disapproving. If you are supine, you are weak and you willingly accept the control of others. The new director has introduced a series of changes against little opposition from the supine staff. Supinely adverb disapproving. Mammoth huge. Sense mammoth placards poster, notice board announced the opening of the new movie. Sense mammoth adjective extremely large, cleaning up the city-wide mess is going to be a mammoth task. It's a mammoth undertaking. Are you sure you have the resources to cope? Mammoth noun. See a type of large hairy elephant with tusks, which no longer exists. Repulse drive back. Sense management is sure to repulse any request for increased remuneration. Sense repulse push away verb. T formal, to push away or refuse something or someone unwanted, especially to successfully stop a physical attack against you. The enemy attack was quickly repulsed. Repulse noun. S or U formal or old-fashioned. When someone or something is repulsed. Repulsion noun. You specialize the force in physics that pushes two objects apart. Magnetic repulsion. Sense repulse dislike verb. T often passive formal. If something repulses you, it causes you to have a strong feeling of dislike, disapproval or disgust. The tourists were repulsed by the filthy conditions. Repulsion noun you strong dislike or disgust. To feel repulsion a look of repulsion flashed across her face. Repulsive adjective extremely unpleasant or unacceptable. What a repulsive old man. I think rats and snakes are repulsive. Havoc ruined sense the virulent plague caused havoc among the populace. Sense havoc noun you confusion and lack of order, especially causing damage or trouble. The storm wreaked caused havoc in the garden, uprooting trees and blowing a fence down. The delay played caused havoc with their travel arrangements. Raise destroy sense following the revolution, the people raised the subterranean underground dungeons of the dictator. Degree sense raise verb to completely destroy a city, building, etc. The town was razed to the ground in the bombing raid. Not a building was left standing. Philadelphia lawyer a lawyer of outstanding ability since his case is so hopeless that it would take a Philadelphia lawyer to set him free. The infamous attack. The coffee cup suddenly went spinning, as an explosion knocked Dory Miller flat on his back. Jumping up from his supine position, the powerfully built messman from Waco, Texas, headed for the deck. Everywhere that Dory looked he saw smoke and mammoth warships lying on their sides. Overhead dozens of Japanese dive bombers controlled the skies without a U.S. plane to repulse their attack. The havoc was enormous, massive. Without hesitating, Dory joined the team that was feeding ammunition to a machine gunner, who was making an ineffectual attempt to protect their battleship from being razed by the torpedo planes. Null Week 14 Day 3. Lethal deadly sense the jockey received a lethal kick from the fractious horse. Sense lethal adjective able to cause or causing death, extremely dangerous. 3 minutes after the fire started, the house was full of lethal fumes. In the car the police found guns, knives and other lethal weapons which can kill. A 59-year-old man was executed by lethal injection, by having a poisonous substance put into his body this morning. Informal the combination of tiredness and alcohol is lethal has a very bad effect. Scurry run hastily sense pose hero watched the rats scurry across his inert body. Sense scurry verb I usually plus adverb or preposition, to move quickly. With small short steps, the mouse scurried across the floor. The noise of the explosion sent the villagers scurrying back into their homes. Scurry noun s incisive acute sense our editor castigated the proposal with his incisive commentary. Sense incisive adjective expressing an idea or opinion in a clear and persuasive way. Incisive questions comments incisively adverb incisiveness noun you precipitate. Hasten sense a quarrel was precipitated among the relatives after they heard the terms of the reprehensible will. Sense precipitate make happen verb formal, to make something happen suddenly or sooner than expected. An invasion would certainly precipitate a political crisis. Fear of losing her job precipitated suddenly forced her into action. Precipitate adjective also precipitous formal. If an action is precipitate, it is done sooner or faster than expected and without enough thought or preparation. Don't be precipitate, think it through before you make a decision. Precipitately adverb formal in a way that is too sudden and without consideration. Scientists are annoyed that the research program has been abandoned so precipitately. Precipitation noun you formal the Prime Minister has been accused of acting with precipitation too quickly over the crisis. Sense precipitate noun see or you specialized a solid substance, which is produced from a liquid during a chemical process. After filtration, the precipitate was dried at 90 C. Precipitate verb I or T specialized if a liquid precipitates substances and it becomes solid and separate from the liquid. Cooling the beaker helps precipitate the compound. If any organic salt is formed, it will precipitate out immediately. Precipitation noun you specialize the compound is finally obtained by precipitation. Sense precipitate throw verb to usually plus adverb or preposition formal, to throw someone or something from a height with great force. Stereotype and varying pattern. Sense the laconic Clint Eastwood is a stereotype of the strong, silent Western hero. Sense stereotype noun see disapproving a fixed idea that people have about what someone or something is like, especially an idea that is wrong. Racial sexual stereotypes he doesn't conform to fill the national stereotype of a Frenchman. The characters in the book are just stereotypes. Stereotype verb T disapproving to have a fixed idea about what a particular type of person is like, especially an idea that is wrong. The study claims that British advertising stereotypes women. We tried not to give the children sexually stereotyped toys. Stereotypical adjective disapproving having the qualities that you expect a particular type of person to have. Customers are tired of the stereotypical, fast-talking salesperson. Stereotypically adverb disapproving, to gild the lily, to praise extravagantly, since there was no need for the announcer to gild the lily, because we could see how beautiful the model was. The heroism of Dory Miller. Men all around Miller were succumbing, yielding to the lethal spray of Japanese bullets. He dragged his captain to safety, and turned back to see that the machine gunner had been killed. Dory took the big gun and trained it on the incoming bombers. Within the space of 10 minutes he was credited with destroying 4 bombers while dodging the bullets of their fighter escorts. The enemy scurried away, having struck PP Strike, the incisive blow that precipitated U.S. entrance into World War II. Amidst the dead bodies and the ruined fleet were the heroes such as Dory Miller. The Navy had told him that he did not have to fight, but he hadn't listened. The Navy had attempted to stereotype him, but Dory changed all that. Week 14, Day 4. Stentorian loud sense. In his customary stentorian tones, the sergeant reprimanded those who thought the Army was a haven safe house for incompetent sense. Stentorian adjective, formal, using a very loud voice, or of a voice very loud. A stentorian preacher. Suddenly a stentorian voice boomed across the room. Singular, extraordinary, remarkable, uncommon sense. A viable peace was brought about as a result of the diplomat's singular contribution. Singular, singular adjective, not gradable. Grammar being the form of a word used to talk about only one thing. A singular noun verb. Woman is singular, but women is plural. Singular adjective, not gradable. Noticeable, unusual, and easily noticed. His campaign was singular, because he talked about issues, and did not attack his opponents' personal lives. Singular noun. Cu. Grammar specialized in grammar, the form of word used to talk about only one thing. The singular of clouds is cloud. Valor, courage sense. The word surrender is anathema, bad word to people of valor sense. Valor, UK. Us. Valor noun. U. Formal, great bravery. He was promoted to the rank of major in recognition of his valor during the battle. Bias, prejudice sense. The bigot's bias precipitated, hastened a fistfight. 1/4. Sense. Bias, preference sense. Noun 1. C. Usually singular. U. A tendency to support or oppose a particular person or thing in an unfair way, by allowing personal opinions to influence your judgment. The government has accused the media of bias. Reporters must be impartial and not show political bias. There was clear evidence of a strong bias against her. There has always been a slight bias in favor of towards employing arts graduates in the company. 2. C. Usually singular, a preference towards a particular subject or thing. She showed a scientific bias at an early age. Bias sense. Verb tss or us. Usually s. The judge ruled that the information should be withheld on the grounds that it would bias the jury against, influence them unfairly against the accused. Biased, UK. Also biased adjective, showing an unreasonable like or dislike for a person based on personal opinions. The newspapers gave a very biased report of the meeting. I think she's beautiful, but then I'm biased since she's my daughter. Note: the opposite is unbiased sense. Bias clothing noun. You specialized a direction at an angle across the threads of woven material. The dresses in his new winter collection are all cut on the bias in a diagonal direction across the cloth. Sinecure, soft job sense. The director was ousted, expelled from his sinecure when he angered the mayor. Sinecure noun. C. Disapproving, a position which involves little work, but for which the person is paid to steal one's thunder, to weaken one's position by stating the argument before that person does. Sense. I had planned to be the first to resign from the club, but my cousin stole my thunder for distinguishing devotion to duty. Some months later, Dory Miller was serving on an aircraft carrier when Admiral Chester Nimitz, the commander of the Pacific Fleet, came aboard to preside over a special award ceremony. In stentorian tones, the Admiral presented Miller with the prestigious Navy Cross, commending him for a singular act of valor and disregard for his own personal safety. Miller's heroism helped to shatter the bias against African Americans in the armed forces. Although he could have accepted a sinecure at a U.S. naval base, Dory chose to remain in the combat zone, where he was killed in action in December 1943. Week 14 Day 5. Sugar and spice and everything. These Teen Talk Barbie, the best-selling $50 model, has gone a step too far in the opinion of the American Association of University Women. Representatives of that group were nettled to hear that one of the 4 phrases that the doll is programmed to utter is, "Math class is tough." For years the university professors, as well as members of feminist organizations, have inveighed against the stereotype that portrays girls as weak math and science students. Because the brainwashing message is conveyed to girls at an early age, they come to accept what we consider to be a blatant bias, said Dr. Ellen Kainer, a Dallas chemist. "We are just beginning to make progress in our campaign to recruit women for challenging, well-paying careers in math and science," she added, "and we're shocked to learn that Barbie is spreading such harmful nonsense." Executives of the company that manufactures Teen Talk Barbie had to scurry to set matters right. They admitted that the phrase in question, one of 270 selected by Computer Chips, was a mistake. In a press release, their president said, "We didn't fully consider the potentially negative implications of this phrase. Not only will we remove it immediately, but we'll swap with anyone who bought the offending doll. We wonder how Ken feels about the matter."